Stories that define the day from every corner of the planet. I'm Arjun Samad Mahendran, and this is the World Report. Indian Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav participated in the Critical Minerals Ministerial meeting hosted by US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in Washington, D.C. Now, the main focused on strengthening global supply chains for critical minerals and, of course, reducing dependence on Chinese rare earths. Vaishnav stated how this turning point is very important for countries like India, where manufacturing, especially electronics, is growing quickly. Bessent voiced optimism that they will pursue prudent de-risking over decoupling, viewers, and that they understand the need to remedy critical minerals deficiencies. Listen in meanwhile to Minister Ashwini Vaishnav.
As we all know, and especially in India, when the manufacturing sector is growing rapidly, especially electronics manufacturing, it's very important for all the countries, including India, to have a resilient supply chain of critical minerals. So in this meeting, participants from various countries, they discussed their experience, the steps that they are taking in making the supply chain resilient, especially technology for refining, processing the mineral ores so that high quality critical minerals, especially the rare earth, permanent magnets, those kind of materials can be secured in a long term, in a sustainable manner.
Stay with Washington, where a dramatic proposal from the White House is now sending tremors across the icy front line of the Arctic and also ripples through the corridors of NATO. A US Republican lawmaker has introduced a bill calling for the annexation of Greenland, a sovereign territory of Denmark and also a part of the NATO alliance. Backed by Donald Trump's long-standing obsession with owning Greenland, the bill even includes the phrasing, by whatever means necessary. That's correct. Now, according to Trump, Greenland is absolutely necessary for US internal security and Arctic defense. As competition with China and Russia heats up across the Arctic, Denmark and Greenland are pushing back hard. They're calling the proposal illegal and unacceptable. But that's not it. In the face of Trump's threats and the congressional approval that's still needed here, now NATO allies are discussing boosting their own military presence in Greenland to block any unilateral US move. Meanwhile, all eyes are stuck on Greenland as we speak, with Trump's top priority being taken over the nation. Tensions are now at an all-time high. Here's a special report highlighting China's pushback on US's invasion plan of Greenland. Take a look.
The world's frozen north is fast becoming a hot geopolitical flashpoint. Greenland, the vast Arctic island rich in resources and strategic access, is now at the center of a growing global power struggle involving the US, China and Europe. China is pushing back sharply against Washington. Beijing says the US must not use other countries as a pretext to pursue its interest in Greenland, insisting that China's own activities in the Arctic comply with international law.
北极涉及国际社会的整体利益，中国在北极的活动旨在促进北极的和平稳定和可持续发展，符合国际法。
This comes as Donald Trump escalates rhetoric about taking control of Greenland, a move that has alarmed allies and rivals alike. In Denmark, the stakes are being spelled out clearly. Danish MP Rasmus Jarlov recently said important principles are at risk, calling on India to back Denmark as pressure from Washington grows. Greenland itself is pushing back. Political parties across the Arctic island have united in rejecting Trump's repeated threats, saying Greenland's future must be decided by its people, not imposed by foreign powers. The island, an autonomous territory of Denmark, sits at the crossroads of global competition, prized for its location near Arctic shipping routes and untapped natural resources. Meanwhile, New Delhi is watching closely, weighing principles of sovereignty, strategic partnerships, and the growing contest between major powers. As climate change opens new routes and resources in the far north, Greenland is no longer just a remote island. It's a global chessboard, and the next moves could reshape the balance of power far beyond the Arctic Circle. Bureau report for NDTV World.
We now take you to the Middle East, where Iranians displayed their frustration with the Khomeini regime by rallying across Tehran. With fires set around the city, people's pent-up outrage has no end. Meanwhile, over in Urmia, young Iranians clashed with Islamic regime forces and also confronted Khomeini's suppressive forces on the streets. Massive fires burned and thousands of protesters were seen on the streets in the central Iranian city of Isfahan. Protesters burned garbage containers in Tehran as anti-government demonstrations continued across the country. Demonstrators can be seen burning garbage containers placed in the middle of the streets, blocking traffic, as protesters can be seen lining the streets with security forces moving around the motorcycles. Protesters also rallied outside the Iranian embassy in Armenia, waving flags and banners in support of anti-government demonstrations across the country. Protesters also expressed their outrage as they cannot get in touch with their relatives back home in Iran. Stay with the region, viewers, where anti-regime protests continue to rock Iran as global pressure mounts on Tehran. The crisis is now escalating sharply, with US President Donald Trump announcing a 25% tariff on any country, absolutely any country trading with Iran, essentially targeting Tehran over its violent crackdown on protesters. Now, Trump says the tariff is effective immediately as the White House weighs in tougher options and even sanctions arraigned against Iran. Earlier, Trump warned that Iran has crossed a red line, keeping military action on the table. The White House says airstrikes are among several options, though diplomacy remains the first choice. The US has now issued a citizens' advisory for Americans amid the rising protests in Iran. Iran's supreme leader, meanwhile, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has hit back, warning that America does not understand Iran's real power and will face defeat. Iran's foreign minister, meanwhile, Abbas Araghchi, has accused Israel's Mossad of fueling the unrest. As international condemnations grow, the Iranian crisis shows no sign of cooling down. Meanwhile, here are some reactions from Washington and Tehran as well.
Crossing your red line yet to trigger a response?
No, they're starting to, it looks like, and there seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
I think one thing President Trump is very good at is always keeping all of his options on the table, and airstrikes would be one of the many, many options that are on the table for the commander-in-chief. Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately, and I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary, and nobody knows that better than Iran.
در تهران در بعضی جایی دیگه یه مش تخریبگر آمدن ساختمان متعلق به کشور خودشون رو خراب کردن برای که دل رئیس جمهور آمریکا خوش بیاد، چون او گفته که حرف بی ربطی که اگر چنانچه دولت ایران چنین کنه من میام طرف شما رو میگیرم.
Well, you heard the voices from Washington and Tehran. Meanwhile, we also have some expert reactions on the Iran crisis. This also includes a former political prisoner of the Islamic Republic regime in Iran. Listen in.
Regime has been always violent. Regime has been always oppressing the people of Iran for 47 years. And I just wanted to correct one of your number. The confirmed number is 2,000 people, 2,000 brave Iranians. The unconfirmed number is more than 10,000 people who were killed by the regime. So, I welcome to the new decision by President Trump, but this is not enough. This is not something that President Trump said it. You are loaded and you are ready. And the Iranian people are under the oppressing of the regime. The regime shut down the internet, Starlink, electricity, phone for several days. Now it's a time for action and responsibility to protect R2P is a legitimate international law that we want President Trump invoke it on the regime.
I mean, this measure is really directed, I think, at China, who's collecting about 90% of Iran's illicit oil trade. But at the end of the day, don't forget there already were secondary sanctions on people, entities, and countries doing business with Iran. So I don't see what huge impact this is going to have at this point. I mean, as Salman mentioned, President Trump said, you know, we're locked and loaded if you kill protesters. And now here at Iran International, we're confirming 2,000 people confirmed dead, but we also are aware this is a very conservative number. And we're hearing possibly 7,000, 10,000 at least dead. You know, the images coming out of Iran are very telling. We're seeing dead body bags, people arriving to the hospital already dead. So I think this is President Trump's way of saying that he's taking action. But in fact, I think this is going to do very little. And already, I mean, there's an economic collapse in Iran. So I don't see what kind of impact this is going to have at the end of the day.
Now we head straight to Washington, where President Donald Trump is again turning up the pressure on Iran and on the countries now that do business with it. In a surprise announcement, Trump says any nation trading with Iran will now face a 25% tariff on all businesses with the United States. That's correct. This order takes effect immediately. No exemptions, no timeline. Trump says the decision is final. Iran's biggest trading partners include China, Turkey, the UAE, and Iraq, raising the risk of fresh global trade tensions and geopolitical trade tensions as well. The move comes as Iran faces growing unrest back at home. Rights group report hundreds killed in a violent crackdown on protests by insiders. They're telling us that at least thousands have been killed altogether since the 28th of December. The White House, meanwhile, says military options are on the table, but claims diplomatic talks are also ongoing behind the scenes. However, China is considered Iran's biggest trading partner. The move will also impact India, the UAE and Turkey, which are also among Tehran's major trading partners. According to the Indian embassy in Tehran, India exported goods worth $1.24 billion to Iran in the fiscal year 24-25, while it imported goods worth $0.44 billion, taking total trade to an approximate $1.68 billion. Over in Bangladesh, a Hindu auto rickshaw driver has been beaten to death in what local media describe as the latest attack on the country's minority Hindu community. The victim, Samir Das, was 28-year-old. The brutal assault took place on Sunday night in the Chittagong region. According to reports, the attackers thrashed and stabbed Samir Das to death before fleeing the spot where his battery-operated auto rickshaw lay. Police say the murder appears to be pre-planned. In fact, a senior officer has confirmed that the victim was attacked with country-made weapons and beaten repeatedly. The family is expected to file a first information report or an FIR, and police have launched an operation to identify and arrest the culprits. However, no arrests have been made so far. Over in Canada, police have arrested a man in connection with Project 24K. Well, it's an investigation into the theft of more than Canadian $20 million in gold bars, the biggest outed thread in Canada till now. The heist marks the largest gold heist in Canada's history, as I was just mentioning. 43-year-old Arslan Chaudhry was arrested at Toronto Pearson International Airport as he flew in from Dubai. Not only this, he's been charged with the theft of over 5,000 Canadian dollars. Now, with Chaudhry's arrest, 10 more people have now been charged in connection with the theft. Police are also on the lookout for a key Indian origin prime suspect, a former Air Canada employee who is believed to be in India as we speak. In South Korea, the Seoul Central District Court is set to resume the closing arguments hearing on the trial of ex-President Yoon Suk-yeol and his associates. The group was indicted over rebellion charges in connection with Yoon's martial law imposition in December 2024. Independent counsel is expected to state what specific sentencing it recommends for Yoon and others. Meanwhile, Yoon faces other trials of accusation ranging all the way from corruption and favor trading to rebellion. The charges that is punishable by life imprisonment or the death penalty. Hundreds of students staged a walkout Monday at the Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. The protest was against federal agents who deployed tear gas on students and faculty less than a week ago. The students planned the 2-mile route from the school and marched with signs. The slogan ranged all the way from "Hands off my school" and "Ice get out" to "Hot girls met ice." One slogan even said "Welcome to Panem." Now it's a reference to the dystopian society from the Hunger Games series. The adults donned reflective vests to clear traffic for the students. We get you.
They left school around 2 p.m. carrying signs, and some members of the band had their instruments, so they provided musical accompaniment along the way. They circled the block and then walked out to Hiawatha, which is one of the main thoroughfares here in Minneapolis. They stood there on top of a hill for about 15 minutes. Traffic passing was honking a lot in support of the students.
Raging wildfires in the Argentine Patagonia have blazed through over 12,000 hectares of native forests, as you'd see there on your screens right now. This is threatening local communities. Now, the fires started almost a week ago and flames have spread across a vast area of the comarca Andina. Now, it's considered one of the top tourist destinations in the region as well. Hundreds of firefighters and volunteers have attempted to halt the fire with the help of helicopters, amphibious planes, and even 8 tankers. Meanwhile, let's listen in to what residents have to say.
Son más grandes los incendios porque la sequía son otras, ¿no? Estos años vienen muy secos, no está nevando en las cordilleras en invierno, estamos escasos de agua en los ríos, los arroyos, así que sí, ojalá que este sea el último incendio en nuestra comarca.
Mattel has launched an autistic Barbie, part of the toy maker's commitment to representation and inclusion. The company has previously produced Barbies with type 1 diabetes, Down syndrome, and even blindness. The doll's averted gaze mirrors how some autistic people avoid direct eye contact, while bendable elbows and wrists allow for repetitive movements. Accessories include a pink fidget spinner to reduce stress, and of course, noise-cancelling headphones to limit sensory overload. Meanwhile, a tablet with some symbol-based communication buttons to support everyday interaction is also included. Guilherme Pexito, known better as a Padre Guilherme, is a priest from a village in northern Portugal who preaches by the day and, well, he parties at night. To the 52-year-old, DJing is a way to express his faith and, of course, send message of peace and coexistence. Padre Guilherme has been a global sensation for months together, performing around the world and also amassing a whopping following of 2.6 million on Instagram. Now, what started as a way to fundraise for local churches eventually snowballed and has now become a vital new way to evangelize. Well, with that time, we slip into a short break. Viewers, much more lined up on the other side. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. All 2 updates from the world of business and tech, where Apple's just made a major AI move and Elon Musk is not impressed. Apple has confirmed a new deal with Google. Google's Gemini AI will help power future versions of Apple's Siri. And Elon Musk, well, says that this is a problem. He calls it an unreasonable concentration of power with Google. The deal gives Google's Gemini models a central role inside Apple's AI strategy. Now, this essentially means that Google AI will be on iPhones, on top of Android, on top of Google Chrome. Musk argues that this puts too much influence in one company's hands. The timing matters. Apple is racing meanwhile to catch up in artificial intelligence. Google on its front is fighting antitrust cases around the world. And now Musk has skin in the game as well. His company XAI is suing Apple and OpenAI. He claims Apple's App Store favors OpenAI and it blocks rivals like his chatbot Grok. Meanwhile, Apple has not responded to Musk's comments or his salvos. And regulators are watching closely as this deal could very well reshape who controls your AI on your mobile device. Paramount Skydance on Monday sued Warner Bros. Discovery for more information on a rival $82.7 billion deal with Netflix. The move marks an escalating battle to take control of one of the most storied Hollywood studios, mind you. The David Ellison-led company also said it planned to nominate directors to Warner Bros.'s board. The action is one of the most aggressive steps to convince investors that its $108.7 billion all-cash bid is superior to Netflix's deal. Johnson & Johnson convinced Delaware's highest court to throw out the part of a $1 billion damages award. The award was for breaching its 2019 agreement to buy maker of surgical robots, Auris Health. The decision means damages, including interest, could also decline by a couple of $100 million after being reevaluated. In the world of sports, Real Madrid on Monday announced that Xabi Alonso has left the role as the first team coach by mutual agreement, essentially bringing an end to his brief tenure at the Santiago Bernabeu. The decision comes on the back of Real Madrid's defeat to their grave rivals Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup, or the Spanish Super Copa as it's called back there. Second-team manager and former defender Alvaro Arbeloa will take over the first-team job. Real Madrid, by the way, parted ways with Alonso a little more than 7 months after appointing him following a poor run results in all competitions. Sophia Turner and Archie Mektekwe on Monday premiered their new crime thriller Steel in London. The limited series follows office workers Zara and Luke, played by Turner and Mektekwe respectively. Now this as they find themselves in the middle of the biggest heist ever. Take a look.
I actually really like playing characters that are constantly in distress because it feels quite cathartic to me. It's like therapy. So I love it. If it's a boring scene, it's boring for me to shoot as well.
There were so many things. I think for me, really, it was a lot of the off-camera stuff. It was, having these huge, intense, emotional days and then just blasting music and singing and dancing when we were waiting to go back on set. That was lovely.
And well, that's all the updates we have for you this Tuesday. Take care and have a wonderful day.